Or recording in progress, she says. So, welcome to Big Egg. Don't we all wish we could have an Easter egg this big, although I think I'd be feeling a bit sick if I did. So what we're going to do, which you might never have done before with this session, is we're going to paint our egg first, and then we're going to paint everything else around it. And the reason we're going to do that is because it gives us a chance to kind of really fill the area with pattern. And then because our background is so plain and in this pale blue, it will cover any sort of mistakes or lines or uneven bits that we do. So with, I always try and do this with our paintings, which is you can adapt any of these to what you've got around you, and you can also change the cut, so you can change the colors up, and also, you know, if blue's not your thing, you can change that too. This will work with any of the opaque colors, so any colors that aren't really see-through. So you're going to struggle if you decided you wanted to put a yellow background on there, but if you put a mixture of yellow and white, that will help. Right, so first job, what we're going to do is we want to mix ourselves a bit of pale yellow. So I know that if I try and do this with a pale yellow, it won't show up on the screen. So I'm going to use, I've got a colour called cadmium yellow, which is like a nice goldeny yellow. So there you go, you can see it there. I'm going to paint with this, but what you want to do is add a bit of white, and you want to mix like a pale sort of buttery yellow like this. Okay, so I would say roughly 1/4 yellow to 3/4 white. So you don't need lots. This is just to give us our guideline. So how many Easter eggs are you all expecting? Lots. We've got like 2 weeks. 5! No way, I'm so coming to your house. I'm going to dress up in a bunny costume, break in the middle of the night and steal them all. Okay, so give me a thumbs up when you've got your yellow and white mixed up. Yeah, cool. So I made a real schoolboy error this morning. You can tell I'm still half asleep. I put my coffee right next to my water, so we can guess at what point I stick my paintbrush in my coffee. So I'm going to move that. Right, so I've got my yellow, and I'm going to add a bit of water to it, because we just want it a little bit more. We don't want it watery and runny, but just a little less gloopy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically draw a line right up the middle of my canvas, like that. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a bit of a guide. And then I want to do another one about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom. See, that one's very crooked, but that doesn't matter. This is mainly to give us an idea of a placement of where we want to put our egg, because we want a really big egg, but we want to leave enough room for our Easter bunny. So everyone done that? Yeah, cool. So we're going to come down a little bit from the top, and we're going to paint in a circle like this. This is going to be this point of our egg here. So it's kind of like a sun. Okay. Yeah, cool. And then what we want to do is do another bigger circle. And if you guys watch where I'm placing it, so I'm going to put my big circle is kind of just off. Actually, I could go even bigger than that. It's just over. Who's into Star Wars? It looks like BB-8. See, I've got a bigger circle and it's just sitting over to the left-hand side of my cross. Everyone okay? Yeah? Awesome. Does anyone want me to have a look at theirs? They can hold it up and I can have a look if you're not feeling confident. If you're happy with it. Yeah, awesome. Wow, that's going to be a massive egg. Move it over a bit more. Yeah, cool. Excellent. So those of you who have painted with me before, you know we always do a bit of maths, don't we? And we imagine that this is a clock. And what we're going to do is join 9 o'clock there to 9 o'clock there and 3 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So, but we don't want to do that with a straight line. We want to do a curved line like that. And look, we've got an egg shape. There. All of that, and we got an egg shape. Do you know why eggs are this shape and not like just round? It's so that when these, because they do get knocked about when they've got like a mum sitting on them, and it's so that they don't roll away. Because of the shape, when they roll, they'll always roll in a curve, so they won't roll away and they have to be brought back. So we got science, maths and art this morning. Boo! Okay, has everyone done their egg shape? Yep, awesome. Okay, now we're going to do our bunny. We're going to still do our bunny in yellow because this is a nice, quite an easy colour to hide. So we are going to, so we come out, so depending on how big your egg is and depending on how much space you've got left, when you do things like cartooning, you exaggerate things. So we've got a really big egg. So if you've done your egg really massive, only do a really small bunny like that big. So, and it kind of makes it cartoony. Or you can do a bigger bunny like I've done. Just got someone joining. So, yeah, so we're going to start off putting in our bunny. So it is up to you. If you really want to exaggerate it and play with this, you can make your bunny a bit smaller. That's absolutely no problem. I'm going to work roughly on the same size as I've done in my original, but you can play with yours a bit if you want. So, you know, we divided our canvas into a third here. What we're going to do is do roughly the same up here, but just on the right hand side. So if that's our bottom third, this is our top third. So I'm going to pop in another little guideline there. Okay, just to the side of the egg because we don't need it on the other side. Okay. And then what that does is if we divide this in half, this gives us our bunny's head over here on the side. I know this is all very boring and long-winded, and we'll get to the serious painting in a minute. Oh no? Okay, good. So we're then going, if you're drawing, this is a really good thing to do anyway, to sort of plan out your pictures before you start painting. So what we want to do now is this little cord here. The middle there, and we're basically going to do a curved line that goes up like that. That's going to be our bunny's body. And because our bunny is carrying this really big heavy weight, if you ever see anyone who's carrying a heavy weight, they kind of lean back to sort of balance it, and that's what our bunny's doing. Its back is, yeah, exactly like that. Its back is bending backwards. And then what we're going to do is, we've got this middle line, we're going to pop in another curve there. This is the bit between our bunny's legs, because again, when someone's carrying something, trying to balance it, they spread their feet out to help to like keep themselves balanced. So, meet the everyone okay? Yeah. And then we've got two big feet. Rabbits have got great big feet. So on the right hand side, we're going to do a little kind of circle like that. This is a thing called foreshortening, because the foot is coming towards us, so you only see a kind of squished up version of it. And then to the left, we're going to have our long foot, because this is pointing in a different direction. So we've got a flat line and then a kind of a bump like that. So we've got two more bits to do on the planning, and then we can actually start painting properly and filling this painting in. So next thing we need to do, so again, if we find 3 o'clock on the head of our bunny, we're going to have, so you can change this up a little bit. I've got a lop-eared bunny, because we used to have a lop-eared bunny, so they're my favourite, and her name was actually Bunny. If you want to do a sort of more traditional rabbit with the ears sticking up, you can do exactly the same shape but point it upwards. You could do 2 going up, but for a lop-eared bunny, we're going to go down like that from 3 o'clock on our circle. We're going to loop down to that guideline, and then we're going to come back up again. It's starting to look like a bunny a bit now. So you can, if you want to, put a little bump in there for your tail, but you don't have to. That's just to remind us it's there later on, but you totally don't have to if you don't want to. And our final guideline is just going to be our arm that goes in there. We're just going to put a line in to remind ourselves that our arm is going to be there. Okay? Yeah, awesome. Right, so our big Easter egg. When you've got patterns on things like that are round, what you'll see is, instead of the lines going straight across like that, you can see how mine curve, and this helps give the impression that this object is rounded and not flat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this big middle section here in yellow, but it's up to you if you want to change for a different colour and do a different section. But I'm going to put in my curved line here. So it's curving downwards. And then I'm going to come up a bit, and I'm going to make this section quite big. So I'm going to have that going across. So that's curved again, curved downwards. And then I'm going to switch over to a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to fill the whole of that section in. This isn't easy because you've got to remember where your guidelines are, but it helps a little bit to have them there. There we go. So carry on with doing that if you're still painting. If you're ready to move on, or when you're ready to move on, you can now start to think about the rest of the colours that you would like on your egg. So I've stuck with pastel colours just because, for two reasons. Pastel colours are sort of traditional Eastery colours that they're the colours of the flowers. So you get sort of lilacs, the sort of pale appley green colours, pinks, things like that. And the other thing, the reason I've picked paler colours is because where we're building up the layers of paint, you can kind of start to put the patterns on and they show up quite well. So I'm going to stick roughly to a similar kind of colours to the ones that I've used, but you can totally change them up to whatever you would like. So I'm going to do pink, I'm going to do lilacs, I'm going to do greens, and I'm going to do a little bit of blue, but not a lot, because I don't want it to lose it in my background. So do feel free to grab some more colours of whatever you've got. And also what I'm going to do is give myself a big kind of squidge of white. So I'll show you what I'm going to put out. So generous squidge of white, because we will use quite a lot of this if we're doing pastels. And the real key to doing pastels is to not try and add loads and loads of a colour. You don't need it. You really, really don't need it, because they'll just overwhelm the white super quickly. And before you even know it, you've just got a slightly paler version of whatever colour it was you were actually trying to make. So I've got white, I've got a bit of pink, a bit of green. I'm just going to get out a bit of ultramarine blue. Any blue will do. I've got cerulean blue as well, which is like a nice sky blue. I can get out a bit of that, I think, hopefully. I used this on Friday, and I personally don't like these bottles of paint because there's such a lot of waste with them. But I used one, it was all I could get, and I used it at a party and I squeezed it and it went everywhere. It literally sprayed over everyone and everything. I was like, no, as I saw this paint going like everywhere. And what other colours do I fancy? So I'm going to have a little bit of red as well, I think. So there's no reason why you can't get really colourful and lots of different colours, but I would just try and keep it a little bit, to start off with a little bit sort of toned back and a little bit pastel. So, okay, so this is my plate. I have got a big splodge of white. I've still got some of my yellow left over. I've got a little bit of purple, some pink, some green, ultramarine, cerulean blue or sky blue. This is a bit of orange. This is, what is it? Vermilion orange, but again, any kind of orange do. A little bit of red, and we can just change the colours up as we go along. So to whatever you've got. Right. So I am going to start off getting my stripes in and then starting to put the patterns on. So I'm going to take a bit of my white like that. And so I might go with pink. So I'm going to take a small amount of pink, add that to the white. If it's too pale, I'm going to take another small bit and just keep doing that. So you just try and be patient when you're mixing your colours and add small bits at a time until you get the colour that you want. It's just because otherwise, if you go too strong too quickly, it's really hard to get back and you end up wasting lots and lots of paint, which you don't want to do because it's expensive. So once I've got that, I'm then going to paint, following my circle. I'm going to go over a bit of my yellow as well. And I'm going to go pink down here. And the good thing is, because we're going to paint that sky in afterwards, it doesn't matter if you go a bit wobbly or outside your guidelines, or if you kind of have made a bit of a mistake and you're not happy with it. It doesn't matter because we're going to go around and put the sky in afterwards. So the other thing that doesn't matter is if you can see a little bit of your yellow coming through, because we're going to put a big pattern over the top of that and it really won't show up. So I've done that, and then I'm going to carry on filling in some other bits. So I might, if I wanted to create more of a corally colour, I can add a bit of orange to my pink and make a slightly different tone or shade. Oh, that's nice. Coral's a nice Eastery colour as well. And I can do, so I'm going over the top of my guideline and following my curve still. Like that. So, and when you're doing your curves, you really want, it's down in those corners, those edges bits on either side where you want the real steepest bit of your curve. How's everyone doing? Yeah, okay. Jessica, what was that face for? I pull that face a lot when I'm painting. Yeah, that and the sticking out the tongue one when I was concentrating. Yeah, so when I do like the live parties, I always have a bet when I have adults, and I always say it's like about 52 minutes when they start concentrating so much that they're sticking their tongues out. And I always have to tell them not to eat the paint as well. Adults are so silly. Alessandra, you're laughing because you've so eaten paint, haven't you? Yeah, I know. So I'm going to keep on working, and we can do our whatever colours you like. So I'm going to do some patterns thin, some bands I'm going to do thicker, and we can just have a play and do whatever we like with this bit. So the only thing I would say is when we get to our point up here, I wouldn't really do that in blue, just because it'll kind of get a bit lost in the background. Having said that, if your heart is set on doing blue, do something like use the ultramarine and white, so you've got a different shade, or add a little bit of pink to it so it's more of a purpley, or add a bit of yellow so it's more of a greeny blue. You don't have to stick to the colours that you've got straight out of the tube. I'm going to go for a lilac next. So I've got some of my white. I'm going to move it over there, take a little dip. If you're like me and you're using purple paint, purple is a really strong colour and will just overwhelm your white super quickly. So And we're starting off with pale shades and then putting our darker pattern on top. There we go. So I've got a good purpley shade, and I'm going to do a much thicker band this time. Actually, I need to add a little bit of water. Don't forget about adding water to your paint as you go. And remember to follow the line that you've already got and do that point into the corners. So I'm going to make this lilac band a bit thicker than the corally coloured one that I did. There we go. Like that. And then I can nearly put my brush in my coffee then. My coffee's cold now though. And then I'm going to do, I think I might go for a bit of a blue colour. So I'm going to go, this is how you make a colour called periwinkle. So a bit of white, lots of white and a bit of ultramarine, and you get a lovely sort of purpley blue. That's one of my favourite colours. So I bet you guys, no one ever thinks about this thing. So there's a company that called Pantone, and they're in charge, literally in charge of colours. And each year they pick a colour and say that's going to be the colour for the year. And the colour for 2022 is periwinkle blue, which is that colour. So when you go shopping, you'll see this summer there'll be loads of clothes and bags and things in this colour, because this will be the trendy colour for this year. So I'm going to do a bit of periwinkle, which will look lovely next to my purple. I'm going to do a thinner band this time. So I might put spots or some other stripes or something like that on this. There we go. I think, shall I go green next? Yeah? Okay. So with my green, I know I'm using a colour called sap green, which tends to be like one of the standard colours that you get. And it's actually not a pretty green at all. It's a bit of a dull, boring green. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to add some yellow and some white to it. And that should give me a much more sort of spring-like, kind of minty, appley green colour. Much prettier. And I'm going to add a bit of water. And I am going to, oh, I've got too much paint on my brush there. Scrape a bit off. And I'm going to go there. There we go. Are you okay, Eve? Wow, you did that quick. Excellent job. So I've added my green, and then I might go add a bit of cerulean blue to it and get a nice sort of jadey green. And go across there again. So don't forget to keep your curve as you go higher. Like that. And then you can repeat a colour for the top if you fancy, or just keep going with different colours all the way up. So I'm going to do one more colour in there, and do you know what? I'm going to go back to yellow, I think. I'm going to give my brush a good clean out. And go back to my yellow colour. There we go. That's our egg all filled in. So give me a little thumbs up when you've got your egg all done. And I'll know we're ready to move on. Yeah, awesome. You got it on your thumb. So is it all nice and sunny where you guys all are? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. It's nice and sunny. I think I might go out for a bit of a run this afternoon. Try and get outside in the sun a little bit, although I think it's still really cold. Have you all had the really weird, like bright and sunny and yet still snowing thing? Yeah, isn't it weird? It's kind of cool, but weird as well. I think, I can't remember what day it was. I went out for a run and I only went out for half an hour. And in that half an hour, it snowed on me, it hailed on me, and then it was sunny. And then the wind came from nowhere and blew me like along. So I did a really fast run. but it was like, and then it was snowing again by the time I got home. I was like, it's April. Hello. When you've finished your egg, and there's no rush at all, but when you're ready, what you can do is grab yourself a little bit of black out. So I've said that I've picked a grey bunny to do, but if you want to change your colour of your Easter rabbit to something else, you can do. So you don't need loads of black, just a little tiny, you can see on mine there, that's black. So I didn't need loads of it, just a little tiny bit. And because we're going to make a kind of grey colour. But if you want to do a pink rabbit, if you want to do a green rabbit, really? A green rabbit, you can do a green rabbit. If you want to do a brown one, you can do a brown one, but still do it in exactly the same way as we're doing it, whatever way you are doing it, but just do it in a similar way. So you've got your light areas and your dark areas. So the only thing to keep in mind, I'm going to say this now because I will forget later on, whatever colour that you're going to use for your body, we need to save a little bit at the end for our other little paw over here. So, because I know I'll forget. So when you paint with grey, there's something really important to keep in mind. And that thing is that grey, when you mix it, it dries darker than it looks that when it's wet. So what you want to do when we're painting our rabbit, if you're painting it in the grey with me, you want to make your grey paler than you want it to end up. Because as it dries, I don't know why it does it, but as it dries, it gets darker. I'm sure there's some very scientific reason for it that I don't know, but that is just something to keep in mind. So I can see a couple of you guys still painting your eggs, or are you done? Are you still going? Aoife and Orla, are you guys, that's lovely colours. Oh, come the other way a bit, that's it. Have you got, is the top done or are you still going? Is it done? Give me a thumbs up if it's done. No? Okay, you carry on, don't worry. No problem. Alessandra, are you still going as well? Yeah? Okay. So what I'm going to do, those of you who are painting your egg still, it's hard, especially if you've only got small brushes, it takes quite a long time. And those are massive eggs that you've done. If you're still going, carry on. If you're ready to move on, if you're ready to move on, I'm just going to show you what to do. And you guys, I will recap this so you won't get left behind. Don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my white. So I'm going to move that over to where I've got a bit of a gap on my plate. So I'm going to use 2 sort of brushfuls of white and a little tiny, really tiny bit of black, because the black will just overwhelm our white really, really super quickly. And I'm going to make a pale grey. So this is real kind of pale dove grey colour. Like that. And remember, the thing you've got to remember is that this will dry darker. So it's not the end of the world if you go too dark. We can tweak your painting. I can help you at the end if you do go too dark. So I've made my pale grey. And what I want to do is fill in my whole bunny with my pale grey colour. And the good thing about doing this after doing the egg is that if we've gone a bit wonky anywhere, we can change our egg slightly. So I'm just going to go right the way over everything with my pale grey. Because painting those curved lines is actually quite tricky. So by painting the surround afterwards, it helps us to kind of get a nice clean edge all the way around it. So I'm just going right the way over, including, so if you put your bunny's tail in, you can go, that rustling you can hear is, I've got a big bag I keep all my painting equipment in that I take in and out of the car for when I do painting parties, and one of my cats has just sat in the bag. And it's one of those like big, like heavy duty bags, so of course it's really rustly, and he's a fidget, so that will be, if you hear lots of sounds that could be like thunder, it's not, it's the cat rustling about in the bag. So I'm filling all of this in. I'm even going to do the ear over here. So I've got this big, it's like a teardrop shape. I'm going to do my feet. So I've got this flat bottom here and a curve. It's almost like a clown shoe kind of shape. So it's big at the top and then it goes narrower near the body. And then I'm going to just join that up to the knee there. So I've got like a little right angle. And then that right angle, I'm going to push out to the right. So it's got like a little triangle that comes back on itself. So you can see it goes like that and then up. I'm going to go over our bunny's tail. And then our little kind of circle on the right hand side, I'm going to fill that in. So, and we want it, it's kind of like squish, so it's more like an oval than a circle, but we want to make sure it joins up to the body there. So you guys, are you, Alessandra and Aoife and Orla, are you guys on your rabbit now, or are you still going?
On the rabbit.
You're on the rabbit, okay. Oh, you're going for is that pink or lilac, your rabbit? Oh, cool. Oh, nice. Nice colours. So what we're going to do, one last little change to our rabbit. We did a little kind of half a circle here, and we're going to echo the egg shape. There was no point in us doing this to start off with. We didn't need it. But what we're going to do is just do almost like an egg shape on just to the top of the rabbit's head. So lop-eared rabbits, their ears are so big and heavy, they kind of pull down the skin on their head, so they have this kind of curved head bit like that. So we're just going to pop that in. My next question will determine what we do next. So my question is, are your eggs dry or are they still wet? So give me a thumbs up if your eggs are mainly dry, and give me a thumbs down if they're mainly wet. Right, so we've got 2 thumbs down, 2 thumbs up, and a thumbs down, okay? So the other guys, you haven't got your cameras on, so I can't tell, but if you can give me a little thing with your icon. Is those of you whose eggs are wet, are any of the sections dry? No. Okay, yes, yes. Right, so what we'll do in that case, we're going to put the background in, because some of you guys, to give your eggs chance to dry, we're going to put the background in and then we'll put the patterns on, like in that order. So if your eggs had been dry, so if you're doing the recording and your egg is wet, the ideal way of doing this is to wait for that all to dry, put the pattern on, and then put the background in. But if you're like us doing it live and you want to paint the you're going to do the background next. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Turn it round. Oh, okay. So give me a thumbs up. Fantastic. Give me a thumbs up when you've done your rabbit, so I know we're ready to move on. Yeah, 1, 2. No, 1 down, 1 still painting. Can't see the other guys. If you've smudged your paint or anything like that, a better way of doing it, rather than rubbing the wet paint, is to do a thing called tonking. I'll show you. So you take a bit of tissue and you put it like that and then rub the back and then peel it off. And that's a much better way of getting any excess paint off of, because you'll just smudge it otherwise. Okay, and then peel the tissue off and it takes the paint off. And then what you do with a clean brush, you just rub over the top and it will spread the paint around without adding any more to it. So that's the thing called tonking. Right, so while you guys are still painting in your rabbits, I'm just going to talk you through what we're doing next. So with our background here, you can see our rabbit is standing on some grass, but there's no horizon line, there's no real chain, like sharp line between the grass and the sky. And the reason that you do that in painting is to make things go into the background. And it also saves you having to paint a big straight line, and it makes it easier for yourself. So what I'm going to do is mix up my grass colour and also my sky colour. We're going to need a lot more sky than we are grass. So I'm going to use my white. I'm going to switch over to a bigger brush. And I'm going to take, so I've got 2 splodges of white. There you go, that's showing. And with my big brush, I'm going to take some of my blue. This is like a sky blue colour. And I'm going to add that to my white. And that will give me a nice pale blue colour. Like that. Can add a bit of water as well. So you want to get it to a consistency that's not kind of gloopy, but not runny. So I describe it as being like yogurts, you know, like the yogurts you take in your lunch box to school, that kind of yogurt. So that's my sky colour. And then I'm going to take a little bit of green. So I've got that, it's actually quite a yucky sap green colour. And I'm going to add that to some white as well. And that will give me this pale green. So you might think, oh, that's still a bit yucky. You might want to add a little bit of yellow to it just to lighten it and brighten it up a little bit, make it more of a grassy green colour. There we go. Of course, if you haven't got any green paint, how do you make green? You guys must know this. Yeah, yellow and blue. Excellent. So I've got both my colours here. Are you still going with your rabbits, or are you done now? And all we're going to do is it's best to do this with a big brush, get most of it put in, and then go around with a smaller brush and get into the little details. So I'm going to use my big brush and I'm going to start to paint my blue sky in. So get most of it in. You don't have to go right the way up to the egg at the moment. So hopefully you've used a pale yellow, you mixed your yellow and your white together, and your blue should be covering it nicely. If it's still showing through a little bit, it's not a problem. All you need to do is let it dry, keep a little bit of your blue, and then go back over it. So I'm going just roughly around the outside. I'm not going right the way to the bottom. So I'm going to just about where the bottom of the egg or the tail of our rabbit is. So I've got most of it blocked in there. And then I'm going to switch over to my slightly smaller brush. And that helps me get right in to the bits in between. And I can come round and go get a nice line around my egg and in all the bits where my rabbit is without actually sort of having any white showing through. I can get right in between the ear and the head. Go around the ear. Can you see now that your grey starting to dry how much darker it was as well than when you painted it when it was wet? I'm going to go round my egg. Once you've gone round your egg as well, it's a really good idea just to take a moment and sort of step back from your picture and actually have a look and see what your egg shape's like and whether it is a good egg shape, because once you start to put the pattern on, it's going to be hard to change it. Whereas this is a really good kind of point where you can, if you want to. There we go around our bunny's tail. And just under here. There we go. I have to sit over to the side, so I'm going to try and paint that little angle with my wrong hand. And then as soon as your blue has dried, if you've got any of your guidelines still showing, you can just pop a second coat over to hide it. Here we go. So you want to make sure you keep a little bit of your blue back. If you guys give me a thumbs up when you've got your blue all in. Okay, awesome. So you know the green that we made up earlier, the pale green, yeah? What we're going to do is we're going to fill in around the bottom part of our rabbit with the green. But I'm not going to go all the way up to the blue. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap. So I've left a little bit in between, and I'm just going to do this bit quickly because you have to do this while your paint is still wet. What I want to do is leaving the green as it is. I'm not going to wash my brush out. I'm just going to give it a little wipe on the tissue, and then I'm going to take a bit of my blue and paint just above my green. So between the two colours, joining them up, and you should, with the green and the blue sort of mixed up, you get a little bit of a shade in between, and then wipe my brush out, and I'm just where the green and the blue that we've just painted meet each other, I'm just going to rub my brush over that area, and it just gives you a bit of a blend between the two colours. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side of the rabbit. So I'm going to grab a little bit of green again, just put that to the side, and then I dab my brush on a tissue, take a bit of the blue paint, and then I just paint in where the blue and the green meet, and that will give you a colour that is roughly between the blue and the green in shade. And then working quickly while it's still all nice and wet, I'm just going to rub between the blue and the green, and you get this nice soft blend between the two colours rather than any harsh lines. So I'm just going to pop a little bit more green in there to even it up. And there we go. Awesome. Jessica, you're just too fast. The next step after we've done the grass is actually to start putting the patterns on your egg. Yay, the good bit, the good bit. So what you can do is start to have a think about what you would like to do with your patterns, because hopefully those eggs have started to dry off now. So if you've got, say for example, that first big bit that we did, if that's dry now, start with that one and just work on the patterns on the areas that are dry. If you get some bits that aren't dry sort of at the moment, what we can do, get the ones that you can in, then we'll go work on the bunny, and then we'll go back and finish the patterns off at the end. So it's up to you. I've done all sorts of different patterns. I've done daisies, I've done kind of these circles and spots, I've done wavy lines, there's a bit of a check up here, there's zigzags down here. What works really nicely is like this, where you've got a darker pink over a paler pink, or a darker purple over a lighter purple. That kind of patterning works well because it's kind of not just mad nuts. If you want to go mad nuts, then do lots of clashing colours, do purple on top of yellow and orange on top of blue, and it'll all clash and be really, really nuts. But if you want it, oh, not measle, if you want it a bit more subtle, you can do it like that. So I'm going to use those colours that I got out earlier, and I'm going to go back to using my smaller brush, and I can start putting some patterns on. So I'm going to swap it around a bit this time. I'm going to put daisies on my pink, and I'm going to put zigzags on my yellow. So you can change it up to however you want. If you're going to do something like the zigzags, like I'm going to do on my yellow, then what you want to do is do a central one first. So I'll talk you through that. I'm going to start off by doing, I'm going to use some of my coral colour from earlier on. I'm going to add a bit of yellow to make it more of an orangey colour. Just adding a bit of water. And so to start off doing my zigzaggy pattern, I'm going to start in the middle. Like this, and put my first triangle in. So obviously you guys can change this up and do whatever you want. And then my zigzag's going to kind of curve. It's going to follow the curve of the egg as well. So I'm going to have a bit of a curved line here and here, like that. You can see it's starting to help make it look curved. Every time we do a curved pattern on our surface, it helps to send the same message and make our painting look better. So, and then I'm going to put more zigzags or triangles, should I say. And that starts to make our pattern look a bit more kind of complicated. And then I can put in even more if I want. Start to make it a bit of a geometric-y kind of a design. But what I'm going to do is, although we've got 3 here, I'm not going to do it on these end ones because there's not really enough room. And it's better to just leave something out than try and squeeze something in like that. So that's that. I'm going to come back with another colour. Actually, I could do that now. So I'm then going to use a sort of darker orange. So I am using my brights, but just not on the whole thing. And I can put spots on my egg like this. Or you could put stripes or whatever you fancy. So I'm going to keep that colour going. I'm going to put lines up here. And I could do, what else can I do? I could do, say, a line following the edge of that if I wanted. And I could put in, so I could put in, say, like a dashed line there. So though it's lots of mad patterns, because I'm keeping the colours kind of in a group of similar colours, it's kind of not just a nuts pattern with loads of different colours going on everywhere. Like that. And then I might use a bit of white on that pattern as well. So I could put white spots. Like that. And I can put some white lines or white triangles in other spaces. Okay. I'm going to grab myself a little bit more white, and then I'm going to put some daisies in the bottom pink section, but you can change that to whatever you like. You can do hearts or squares or stripes or whatever. So to do a nice daisy like this, what you do is you basically paint. A daisy is normally 5 circles like that next to each other. And then what you do when it's dry, just come back and put the middle one in. The hard bit with painting daisies is leaving the space so that you can actually fit all 5 circles. Oh, I'm a bit smudgy there. There we go. And I'm going to do another one over here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to see if I can fit one more in here. But if I go reach the edge, yeah, like that, I'm just going to put half of a spot in. And then over here, I'm just going to put a bit of one in. So it shows that the pattern's going right the way off the edge of our egg. And then I can use any colours I want to do my spots in between. So this is a, well, that is meant to be a darker pink, but it's not really showing up. So I'm going to do green instead, just for a change. So there we go, that's showing up more. You don't have to stick to just one colour. So I think I'm going to do some yellow, but I'm going to make sure I use my lemony yellow colour. So a bit of yellow and a bit of white, because that will help to make it show up. There we go. Very Easter colours. And I'm also with my lemony yellow colour. I'm going to put the circle in the middle of my daisies. Like that. And then I can go up and work on some of the patterns in the other areas. So looking at my one that I did over here, I've done the lines on, I've done it on blue there, but they're coral here. So I'm going to use actually my periwinkle blue colour and do more lines on top of my coral. Like that. I could do a bit of a wavy line as well on my green. Like that. So if you wanted to do like I've done with that in the purple, I've made it smaller on this one, but I can show you how to do that as well. So I use a slightly darker purple tone. So I'm just going to mix that up. I want it just a bit darker than what you've been using. So add a bit of water. My paint's starting to dry out a little bit. So hope this shows up. It's dark enough. And what we do is we start off by doing these curved lines. And you can see that what I'm doing is I'm joining some of them up. So they're quite big. Make that one so it shows up a bit better. There we go. So I'm actually doing the bigger ones first. Like that. And then I pop my lines going off of those. And then I get smaller going in. Just like that. Then what I added a bit more purple to make an even darker colour. And using my small brush, I just put some dots on the lines with my darker purple. I could go even darker than that, I think. There we go, that's a bit darker, that shows up better. Like this. Oh, got those ones over there to do. There we go. And then I did the same again, but I did it with white, and on the inside, find a nice, there we go, that's a good clean brush. So, and then, yeah, just spots in between. It's good to have a little bit of white in your patterns if you haven't got white anywhere else in your painting. It just, having a bit of white just kind of seems to create a bit of balance in your patterns. So what else have I got? I've done my blue and green curvy line up here, so I'm going to put spots in either side like that. And I've got 2 more lines to fill. What should I do? I could do any suggestions? Oh, that looks really good. Lovely daisies. So I'm going to do a yellow check top. So I'm going to do, I could do another wavy line actually. Let me think. Let's do, oh, I've got my nice corally colour. So I'm going to do another wavy line. Like that. And then I'm going to put red spots either side. So I can use really bright colours in this. But it's nice to just keep them like for small sections. So I could put a little red line there as well. That would look really nice. So I'm still keeping with this sort of groups of colours that are similar with each other. And to do my check for my top, what I want to do is keeping with a small brush. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got yellow, and I'm going to add a tiny little bit of red to it, just to make a slightly darker orange colour. And I'm going to paint my lines in like this. And they're all curving towards the point. Like that. And then I'm going to do a line that goes across like that. And then if you've got an even smaller brush, if not, just give your other one a wash out. And then using my red, I can do some more lines and do those sitting next to my orange. And then you can do a little bit of white in there as well. You might need to wait for your oranges to dry to do those, but
I'm done with my Easter egg.
Let's have a look. Fantastic. Is everyone else nearly done? Are we ready to move on back onto our rabbit? Okay, no worries. Not everyone's as fast as you. I'm done with mine as well, I think. So while you guys are still painting in your patterns, I'm going to talk you through what we're going to do with our rabbit. So at the moment, our rabbit's one big solid colour, and we need to put some shading on our rabbit, because generally, even if they're just one colour, they still have shades and highlights and things like that. So what we're going to do is, using our grey, we're going to put in our shadows first, because that will help us to give us a guide of where we're going to put our other colours. So that grey that we used, and I said keep a bit of it back because we'll need it. Who's still got some, or has it all dried up? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be grey, obviously, if you've gone with a different colour with your rabbit. So I've still got some of mine here, and what I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit of it, move it over on my palette. See, it's a very small bit, and I'm going to add a bit more, just a little bit of black to it. So I've got a darker grey, And then when I come to do my highlights, I'm pretty much just going to use a bit of the white over the top. So we've got white as our highlight and a darker grey for our shadows. If you're still going with your Easter egg, carry on. And if you're ready to move on, I'll just talk you through what we're going to do. So what we want to do first of all is put, you know, that hand that I said I was going to forget all about, with our darker grey over to the left hand side of our egg. We're just towards the bottom. We're going to put a little circle in our dark grey. It was more of an oval. So that's our bunny's hand holding the Easter egg. And then what I want to do from there is all the areas that are down kind of underneath, we're going to put a bit of shadow on, and also under our egg here. So I'm going to just rub a little bit of my darker grey like that. I'm going to put, so I haven't got masses of it on my brush. I'm going to go under the foot there and a little bit sort of on the toe, because they quite often have. So, and because I haven't got masses and masses of paint on my brush, it starts to run out, and you can kind of just rub. So don't add any more paint, just rub what little bit of paint you've got over your grey, and it gives you a soft kind of furry texture like that. And then I'm gonna go, so just like we did on the other foot, we're going to have a little bit of a point where the toe is, where it's going to be a bit darker, and then we're going to just rub our almost dry brush up and away. Don't worry if you go too dark, we've still got a little bit of our pale grey colour, so we can go back and lighten it up if we need to. I'm going to get a bit more of my grey, and do you remember we put that light guideline for an arm in? So we're going to put that back in a minute, but we need to know where to start it from. So our bunny needs a chin. So we're going to come down like this and create a bit of a chin there. We're also going to come from the side of the chin just down the right hand side of the ear a little bit. And then that gives us the perfect area to know where we are going to put in our arm. So our arm's going to come across the body. We're going to go do it solidly with the dark grey. And then what we want to do is just like a little hand. So even though bunnies don't have thumbs, our Easter bunny today is going to have a bit of a thumb. So we're going to put in a whole solid arm like that. And then last bit with the dark grey from the arm down to the foot on the right hand side. And again, I'm just rubbing inwards so that we get a bit of a softer shadow to it. So for those of you who are still doing your egg, what I'll do, I'll talk you through that again. So using our darker grey, so we just took a little bit of our grey or body colour from before. We added a little, so we've moved it to a different spot on our palette. We added a tiny little bit of black to it to make a darker grey, remembering that A, black is a lot stronger, so you only need a very small amount of it, and B, our grey will dry a lot darker than our than it is when it's wet, so you don't want to add too much. And then we did all of our shadowy areas, and we started off by putting this extra hand in. So this is the arm that's coming from the other side and supporting the weight of the egg. So it's over here. And then we put in a bit of shadow and a bit of a darker point to our feet. We did a shadow underneath our egg, and we put in our bunny's, the shadow on our bunny's chin, and then we painted a little bit, we painted in our arm on the right hand side and a little bit on the right hand side of our ear. If you have gone too dark, or even if you haven't and you want to add a little bit of highlights and things, you can go back at any point to your paler shade. So when you first paint it on, it is going to look paler. You can see the difference there in what it looks like when it's wet to the difference of what it looks like when it's dry. So you can always just go back with the join, just with a small amount of paint, and lighten up any bits that you want to. So it will look funny when you start off, but then as it dries into your grey tone, you can see that's already starting to disappear back into what it was. I'm going to put in a little highlight as well on the extra hand that we just added in, and then I'm going to go back with my paler colour over the top of the right hand arm. Again, I'm not using loads of thick paint and spreading loads of it on. It's just a small amount on my brush that I'm just sort of almost scrubbing over the top to give a softer effect. Give that brush a clean out. Once I've done that, I'm going to add the pink to the ear. So what I want to do is, just like we did with the grey, we're going to have two shades of pink. So a slightly lighter one, you don't need loads of paint for this one, a slightly lighter one and a slightly darker one. And we're going to start off with the lighter one. So we're going to keep to the left hand side of the ear, keep the right hand side grey. And again, just with a small amount of paint, I've just painted it in the bottom of the ear. And then coming up near the head, I'm going to use my darker pink and just really roughly and loosely paint that in there. We also, with our darker pink, we need to find the middle of our rabbit's face and pop in a little bit of a triangle for our rabbit's nose. So give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Yeah, cool. And then make sure you've got a nice super clean brush, because we're going to go for some white afterwards for our next colour. And you really want to make sure this is clean and it's white and not kind of any other colours on your brush. And we are going to, so I'm not adding any water to my white, it's all sort of thick and gloopy at this stage. And the first thing we're going to do is just do some, I'm doing like splodges with my brush to do a fluffy white tail. The cat's in the bag again. My next step after that is from the nose, again with not much paint on. I'm going to go up the line of the triangle, and then I'm going to come down the side of the egg, and I'm going to go around following the line of the chin until I meet up with my line coming out. So I've got a line coming out of the nose to the right. I'm going to come down the side of the egg, go around the outside, or the inside of the chin, and then I'm going to fill all of that in white. So, but it's not like a solid hard white. If you do go too solid again, just grab a little bit of your grey from earlier and just rub that around the outside. And then also going to take a little bit more of the white. I'm going to go along the left-hand side bottom of the ear. I'm going to go along the top of the arm holding the egg. I'm going to go a little bit, so this is just small amounts of paint on my brush, a little bit across the top of the head. And then I'm going to do the tummy, which is a sort of oval shape in the middle of the body, just under the egg. And you can see I'm just painting it really roughly, hardly any paint on my brush. And because it's all kind of fuzzy, it looks furry. Okay, there we go. As that dries, it will start to disappear back into your grey and won't show up quite so much. If you want to get really kind of 3D looking, you can put a bit of white over the tops of your feet, like that. You can go over the top of the head and start to put a bit more details in. You can also use this technique if you want to, but only when it's fully dry. Put like a stripe down one side of the egg, and that will make it look a bit shiny. So I can show you what I mean by that. So yeah, that's all dry. So if you want to, you can just put a line like that on your egg and it looks like a bit of a highlight, but you don't have to do that at all. If you like it flat, I'm just giving you kind of like another idea to do with it. Back onto our rabbit and our small brush, I'm going to use a little bit more of my grey, and just on the top of the head I'm going to just do a few little strokes of kind of like a little bit of hair. And then with my smallest brush, I'm going to add a little bit of water to my black, just to make it a little bit more runny. And with my smallest brush, first thing I'm going to do is a black line that goes underneath the triangle of the nose. And then I'm going to come down the side of my egg. And then if you want a big smiley rabbit, we're going to curl our mouth upwards. So we do a little smile like that, and then a little cheek mark to make him smiley. To make our rabbit really smiley, when people smile a lot, they kind of crease up their eyes as well. So I'm going to just put a little kind of closed eye like that. You can put some, if you want to, if your rabbits are going, put little eyelashes on as well. Who knows if the Easter rabbit's a girl or a boy? Just saying, just saying. And then finally, between the eye and the smile, we're going to put in some whiskers. You've got the option, if you want to just add a few little sort of darker with your black still on your brush. You can add a few little kind of few more shadow lines if you want, just to really make your rabbit that little bit more 3D, but I really don't think you have to worry too much about that if you don't want to. Oh, fantastic. Oh, are those like roses on the bottom of yours, Jessica? Yeah, lovely. So I'm not sure, are you sitting so you're Aoife or are you Ola who's showing me? So looking great. I love the light. It's a pinky lilac, your rabbit, isn't it? Looks awesome. So we've got one last thing to do. And what we're going to do, so we need a little bit of a shadow underneath our rabbit's feet, because at the moment it's a bit sort of, we've done lots of shadow and made this all lots of 3D, but we haven't actually put a shadow in underneath our rabbit. So I've got a clean dry brush. I'm going to use a little bit, this is my darkest green. So, and you can see I'm taking almost all of the paint off, and I'm just going to rub my brush underneath both the feet like this. And then I'm going to kind of almost copy like a mirror image of the shape of the legs. So it's really small amounts of paint, just really kind of rough and scrubby, little bits of it at a time. Don't go too thick. It's better to sort of build it up in some layers, because you want it to be a bit sort of fuzzy, because when shadows fall on, particularly on something like grass, they're all a bit fuzzy and things like that. And that's your shadow underneath your bunny. There we have it. So if you want to, don't forget to sign it. Quite often people like to sign sort of down in the corner down here. And yeah, so that's it. I'm just going to, while I'm here, I've got, Maria and I've got lots of sessions going on over the next few weeks. So if you're local to either of us, we've got live sessions going on. And if you're not, I've got them here. So tomorrow morning, I've got a Zoom session and we're painting the rainbow daisy. And then that's Monday. Tuesday, I have got, where's it gone? Tuesday, I'm doing another blue bunny. And then if you're local to me, I've got 3 live sessions going on. We've got an Easter chick. I'm really obsessed with bunnies at the moment. So we've got a bunny in a floral crown. And then I've also got, which I haven't got down, a hipster bunny. So that's if you're local to me. And the other Zoom session that I've got on is I'm doing this sunflower. This is an adult one. This is a fundraiser for Ukraine, for the Red Cross work in the Ukraine. So yeah, so what I'm going to do, so my live painters all stay with me and I'm going to come and talk to you guys all individually. If you're doing the recording, thank you for painting with me, and as always, we'd love to see how you've got on. in the Easily Does It group. So stay with me, live painters, and those of you doing the recording. I will catch you later.